not go.
Yeah, so now you don't have to worry about it starting, and it's gonna start on time no matter what.
Okay, I love it. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
How are the cakes? How are the carbs? How was last night?
Oh, yeah. Really good live music.
Really? Oh, yeah, I said it. Yeah, I was so fun. Got into my room and then I like laid in my bed. I don't move for a while. Just still in my dress and my jacket. For like a hot minute, I was like, I'm not going anywhere. This is it. Friend.
Hi, yeah,
Morning.
good morning. I'm just slumming for breakfast.
Okay, good.
Yeah. What time is it? Is it
It's 8.
8? Okay.
Yeah.
Hey.
On the water back. Take back, those rinse it off.
That is
Water
so
starts
funny.
coming out, swim. I got out of the shower and I was like, it was like coming down the wall and stuff. I was like, all right, this is where it's going.
At least you were at a hotel and not your house. That is the only benefit. Oh, that's funny. But whoever was upstairs was doing something. Either that or I broke though.
Somebody's out of the toilet.
Great.
You know, I was like, they were like, weird.
I also recommend that.
I'm good. At first, like, when I said they're gonna give me grams, I was like, just like, oh, maybe just permission or something. I was like, I gotta get an upgrade.
Hey,
Yeah.
question. Yeah, what's up? When you first, like joined the Oxford, it's asking if, is it mute the microphone? Is it the microphone on the laptop? Oh, mine didn't ask that.
That one will turn off.
That one will turn off? No, it won't, it won't. I didn't even double check.
Yeah, like,
Let's
it
see.
did not
That one's
ask
off.
me.
That was okay, but this one's.
So you didn't have any default settings?
We had default settings that came up and everything, it didn't say to mute anything. It was just like, this is your microphone, it's working, and it tripped me out because it was like, draw it up and down. It was just
Yeah,
testing
it's like the
and-
normal one, right?
Yeah.
That's not what I expected. Oh, I'm good. As far as I know, it was working just fine, but.
Hello.
Take out the charger accessories you want from it.
Well, you get a lot of new people.
Mm-hmm.
They're real nice.
About four, yeah. Especially later this morning, we can introduce everybody. Right now, about 16 project officers, including 4 new ones, yeah. There's about 16 of us, managing 108 grants, so that's how the math works out.
Let me know when I get my new cat project.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm close to retirement, but not there yet, but I'll. One, I've been telling you, I don't want to be Tom Brady. Once I retire, I'll stay.
I know, trio party for nothing. Yeah, don't do that already.
That's yours, right? In the back?
Mhm.
Okay. So I don't know where that came from.
Came from me. Me.
Has, the Fresno
Then
area.
a dog in the coffee. The guy was there filling it up, and I still are.
He's
like filling up my
going
cup.
out.
It's just not.
Honestly, for the.
It's like it doesn't really have
Yeah.
good flavor. It just doesn't have flavor.
Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah, it's
You know what it's better than though? I can tell you it's not.
Oh, you know what's so funny is that when I worked with BLM in Idaho, the water there is so awful. Like it has so many minerals in it, and people always brought Folgers. And I remember that was like the first time I really had Folgers coffee. And I had a thing of coffee. I got a cup, and I was like, this is this stuff. So I went to the store. It's the first time I ever bought specialty coffee. Because I mean, I'm a kid who grew up camping, drinking canned coffee. My grandparents, my aunts still make canned coffee, stove coffee on the stove. So I'm used to shit like just like, yeah. Used to
You're
stuff.
on mute, you're
Yeah,
good.
I'm used to coffee that you drink it and you're like, wow, that's gonna get me going.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's the first time I went and I bought like specialty coffee that just had more flavor. To just hide the taste of the water. Like if I was smart, I was just a young kid, 20 something. But if I'd been smart, I probably would have went and bought my own bottled water or something. But it's just the high because of the river, the Bear River going through the area, and just the high mineral content. And when you have, and I think they actually pulled groundwater But when you do that near a river, you get all these other minerals in it that,
Interesting.
and it's not that they're life threatening, they're just taste quality.
Yeah.
And people just did it they're so used to it. It was like, I grew up in the desert where you had that groundwater was so fresh and it didn't have that taste. But here, this is farming cattle, nitrates, food,
Yeah.
they're like, that has flavor to it. And I was like, gross. Yeah.
What desert?
I grew up in the Coachella Valley.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, between Coachella and Imperial Valley. So, yeah. And I remember when Palm Springs, I still don't think they have a tertiary treatment when they only have primary treatment.
Oh.
Yeah. That was a long time ago. And we use my spoon for the coffee.
Oh. Go get the same one.
Good.
Do you guys have my presentation? Because I did not bring a copy of it.
I
I uploaded it twice.
We're good. And then my question to you though is going to be, who's starting? Is it going to be, am I doing the video first of Cynthia or am I?
I didn't know I was on with somebody else. I have an hour. This is me. I mean, if we need to share it, I don't care, but I don't think I need a whole hour.
Yeah, there's one for you and then there's one for Justin Campo. And it has both the same time slots. Let me see if I can find. You gonna come in, keep us company, right? Entertain us? And see? Yeah. Let me see.
Oh, that's my after the fire. I don't have it with me.
Let me just double check. I got much stuff somewhere in here. Tahoe, see. 30. Yeah, it just says you.
Uh-huh.
I don't know who this other chick is, but she's, maybe they accidentally put her in my folder. Okay, well then that.
Yeah, this doesn't seem like a
It doesn't really
topic
seem
that
to kind of go.
fits
So we will,
creating TikToks.
is that what it was?
That's what it says.
Creating outreach, oh, this is like some sort of outreach.
Is it afterwards? I mean, I did see it on there, but is it afterwards?
It says for 8:30. Is there,
Did you not find that schedule?
I did, and then I stopped to look at it because I realized that she wasn't there, so. That might was unimportant. Perfect.
San Jose area had 5.1.
What was that?
San Jose had a 5.1.
Tomorrow.
Uh,
Christina?
It's for tomorrow?
I
Okay.
think so.
All right. I'm like, I know I did see it on there, but I didn't think I was sharing.
Yeah, the topic tomorrow is.
Like I said, I don't think I need a whole hour. So I mean, but I'm not
It's
gonna.
really particular outreach for.
Where's it clicked?
Is that on the?
Oh, it's on the video. And then I just want to see if it works, and if it works, then I'll get it to you. That's what we should power through. And then did you want to sit or stand?
I'll stand.
Stand.
But I'm gonna sit while I eat. That's okay.
No.
You know,
Works.
right?
Stand.
You can leave it over there on the thing.
Do you want to present here? Or on
No,
the-
I'll be over there. I'm just gonna sit here and eat. I want to sit up in front so everybody can watch me put food in my mouth. I'm a little. I ate the wrong food last night. It's like and I drank too much water.
Oh,
I was up.
I was gonna say, were you peeing all night?
Yes, like 4 times I had to get up. What the heck? I go back to sleep. I can't get. I probably slept for like at least an hour, hour and a half, and then I felt like I had to go to the bathroom.
What food did you eat? Where'd you go?
We went over to Hard Rock and I got the nachos that they had there, had shredded beef on it. It was really good. Jalapenos. The cheese was shredded cheese, so it wasn't the cheese cookie stuff. And so it was good, but
Did so well.
Didn't know, and I even went got Tums to help. But yeah. I just need, and so I'm like, yay, yogurt fruit this morning. It's just what I need.
Something nice and fresh.
Kind of weird doing presentations when I haven't had to do any for a long time.
You're natural.
Well, now PowerPoint with Office 10, they have all these extra templates. They're pretty cool. They actually do design editor for you. So like, I sit around and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Like format your images and everything too. You're like,
Yeah. No, I was like, okay, I like this help. I'm definitely not a graphic artist, so having somebody give me suggestions is good. I can see like when I like it and don't like it, but I'm not that visionary in the beginning. I'll have to make an announcement. Any EPA staff in here just ignore some of the things I say. The gentleman back there from headquarters.
He waves.
We're always looking to learn.
I should have put on there how tribes squeeze money out of a turnip.
So the one that you're okay with having right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the other thing is that Veronica is supposed to help you with this session is actually going to be leading. So do you think like
I think I'll be fine. Honestly.
It's just me. We're not moderating.
Yeah, it's later, yeah.
Oh.
you're two guys, I'm wondering if they can fill in.
Okay. Oh, yeah. We'll be fine. Okay. I just wanted to let you know. So that okay, that's weird. Just to me. Okay, yeah. Okay. And then for this one later, do you want me to try to find someone else or do you want like one of your moderators to just be your to be the like lead moderator? Oh, yeah, we'll do it. Okay. So you're guys are good.
Okay, cool. So are you guys from VA House?
Oh, okay. They could listen next year.
Next year. All right.
Yeah. We will help you out lots and lots.
I know.
And even you heard me, so we can't go back.
That's right. I heard it. So, you know, when I'm getting older, my memory, sometimes my brain is so full.
I'll make note cards for you. I'll post
Okay,
it.
so
I'll put it around your
sometimes I
house.
need it.
I feel like that this week it's like just stuff that I know, or like people that it's like I just am like blanking and I'm like, I don't know you have me for a decade. That was such a station.
But no, I think that's true. Not being around people for a couple of years, you don't. The conversations on Zoom is one thing.
Yeah.
But if I'm like talking to somebody, I'm trying to remember a certain term or something. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I know what that is. Like, why can't I tell you what that is? And then 5 seconds later, I'm like, oh yeah, it's this. Or
I know.
I honestly do think it's a little bit of not having that interaction with everybody. It's like one thing in your office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I just feel like it's like especially like terms that you know. Or like, I was at a conference this year. And I was like, oh my god, I don't even remember. I'm like, it's water related. That's what I do. I'm like, it's in the podcast. It's just you can find it. You can find it. It's just like like the stairs are crumbling. I'm like, I can't get it. I'm sure next. Let me write those things down so that way I don't forget. Okay. That's what I did with the box. I was good at putting it on the camera. Okay, so. So first one.
The VA just hosted a conference one year in 2017. Because my daughter was just 2 months old. It was the last time I was over at VA House. I grew up though in Imperial Valley, Kashia Valley.
oh yeah.
I lived in El Centro.
I grew up like 5 minutes from Bay Hospital, so I'm really proud of that.
My dad, when they were kids, used to drive their cars from the 8. They'd go through the washes all the way over to the Kashia Valley.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's so destructive. Yeah, but you weren't around then, so I was like, I know. But also the same cost as some of the migrants fall when they come up.
I'm just curious how it's done.
Annette, you didn't get my coffee order?
Oh, sorry. I didn't send you the memo.
I thought about it when I got up here and I was like, oh, I don't like this coffee. It's all right. I'm going to go down after we do this side.
Yes. Next time I'll know.
Yeah, no, it's all right. You forgot it again?
I'm logged in.
I'm still logged in.
Yeah, how you doing?
There we go.
Yeah.
No. Somebody else. I don't know, it's an environmental review for that. Oh yeah, Potter Valley has land. Great deal. Yeah, that's their from. Yeah, those outdoor. Oh, okay. I like the stones that they make in there. They're light, they're nice and crispy on the outside. Coffee.
Compliments to the chef.
Okay, I posted that.
Tap the lotion on it and you have to go to the bathroom.
Oh, yeah. You know, the bathroom they had down by the shore room where we were at yesterday, they have lotion dispenser right in the women's bathroom when you come out.
Seriously?
I thought it was hand sanitizer, and it's like, oh, it's lotion. And I employed it every time I went. Are you guys in the environmental department or?
I'm a environmental coordinator and he's the water.
We are the environmental.
We are it.
To be honest, goes through a lot of sections sometimes.
A lot, yeah. And,
Well, I was being kind.
we're not wrong. Right now, your plate. No, yeah.
So. The last environmental person I remember there was Julie.
She still comes in there.
Does she?
Yeah, she's traveling.
I don't know. She still lives back east. And then she moved back.
Yeah, we were talking the other day, and she was like, "I'm moving for a warm winter." I was like, "Yeah, I want to be cold and wet." That's what we need. She's like, "I'm from the East Coast, so I don't like that." I'm like,
Yeah, she grew up out there.
"She's super nice." Yeah, she's a cultural monitor now, so she's in the office. So we share an office with the director and all that stuff too. So.
How big is the house?
Resident wise, it's, I mean, I think there's like just a little over 400 residents. Waiting to get more census data back because apparently they all participated in the census or this last time.
Yeah, what's your guys' land base?
It's only like 1,600 acres.
That's not small for a Cal.
Wait,
I guess like 800 acres. I think.
Who is?
And
Oh yeah, I guess they do. So we were 41.85 and now we're.
you didn't forget. Hey, Coyote Valley is also small.
also Shumash is pretty small too.
Yeah, Teresa's here for fun and this. Not like Tule River or Hoops River. I don't know. But they were treated in California for the tribe, and they all got, land bases and stuff. But we have a treaty with Russia.
With Russian.
Makes it interesting for contracts with the state because they have that clause now about not working with Russia.
Yeah. Interesting.
So we're like, we have a treaty with that.
Interesting. How does it work?
Fort Ross, when Russia, they first started in Alaska and then moved down to Fort Ross, they were looking for a food outpost, like for food. And they settled on the village of Lutini, which is it's a Kashia village. But then, and then they didn't stay very long. They really depleted resources very quickly. They brought down some Alaska natives with them. So some of the Kashia words have Alaska words with them. So like when people say Jamai, it's actually Alaskan hello greeting. And we were at some of my nephews' baseball game in Healdsburg, and there's a lady there. She's from Alaska. She's like, "Hey, come see where there were more Native people." And she's like, "I'm not coastal." I'm like, "Where are you from again?" And I'm like, "That is the coast. You're just further north." She's like, "Oh." And she comes up. She's like, "Jamai." And we're like, "Whoa!" Like we thought like Kashia people like back then probably met some of your ancestors because that's the greeting that we pick up. Because technically, like when you're talking to a group, it'd be like how are you today? But they use Jamai because that's what they learned from Alaskan natives that came down.
That's so cool. Funny how that all works. I have to come later tonight. I've been staring at both of them. They're very gorgeous. But this one is just keeps.
That's Bob. Yeah, it's the cousin to the Mount Washington shell that we have in California.
Oh.
And the quahog that has purple on the lip of the shell, and out here it's white, so on the East Coast it's purple.
Okay.
My mom is from
I love it.
All right, I will.
I'm not sure. It's in the realm of potentiality. But the tribe of Greece was right. Something like that. I never said this. You want to assess the environmental condition.
Yeah.
Sure. Gonna try to take it out of that context, right? General. It's one assessment. So, you want to assess the land, the integrity of it. I think.
Allergies. One up my nose, like I blew my nose. I was like, oh man, this is crazy.
So dry.
So dry.
Combo.
And maybe you remember when I come out here, I used to carry a little thing of Vaseline with me, just because, you know, I have to get up and just go visit my mom in Coachella Valley because it's so dry.
Yeah, it's like the elevation has been dry, waking up.
Mm-hmm.
I can't.
Yeah. They're pretty much at sea level, so they're coming up. It's just.
They only live like 200 feet elevation,
So it's not, yeah. So you come up with 5,000 feet, you know, you feel it.
It's like here, it's like 6,500.
Yeah. No, I was in 5,000 feet last week, but. Hey, everybody's excited to, I guess, check out the presentation. This was hard to do. It was a hard present, yeah, because it's just like how do you break down like all that you do to explain like where you've gotten, where you're at. So I probably had 30 slides in the beginning because you just go through and you don't want to crowd up a slide. And I'm like, I can't, this is way too much. So I just, I don't want a lot of time for questions if people have questions. So.
I would have come with
2 minutes until launch. Okay, so I need some corny jokes. Who came this morning? If you saw my presentations yesterday in the drought panel, you know that I like corny jokes. Spill it.
What did the spider want to be like?
Spider-Man. Webinator.
A web designer.
I was close. What did the buffalo say to his son when he went off to school? Oh, okay. I know that's an easy one. What's a bat's favorite game?
Baseball.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I used a lot of them yesterday. If you didn't hear them yesterday, it was pretty good. They were pretty good. So sorry for you.
You know, I get a lot of good skills like that from my kids. No, the popsicles.
Oh, I know, right? I do those too. The kids are like, Mom, read it. I was like, hey, I need to write that one down. Oh, okay. I like that. Yeah. All righty. So let's see. Oh, yeah. All right. Liftoff is commencing. Okay. So thank you, guys. Good morning. Hey, Mayaliwa. Everybody can respond back with Kodi. Because, right, you're good, right? You're good. Thank you for coming to the presentation this morning. I hope that it is useful to you. I will admit, this was really difficult for me to put together, but I know it's a conversation that we have a lot when we start talking about budget. How do you show that you are building capacity with GAP, and how does GAP help you? And so I don't think we're going to take the whole time, so definitely have time for questions. I encourage you to ask questions. There's no wrong question in this room, unless I say it's wrong, but otherwise there's no wrong question. No. Okay, so tribal perspective. So this is my perspective. Just so you know, it might be a little skewed. I've been around 20 years. EPA staff, if you hear anything you don't like, just close your ears and don't listen, please. I'm just laying it out there. So I had to put this in here. So the department officially started like around 98, 99. I wasn't there then. So but we're like this little tree here. Or we're like you like my abalone larvae? They're so cool. Like just, yeah. All right. So you know what red abalone larvae look like now. So the question is, what is capacity building? Like, how do you do it? And I think that's a question sometimes we have in our programs, because if you're a program in a tribe and they're like, hey, we have environmental, can you go get the skunk out of our basement? That's not exactly capacity building, but because you're environmental, they just tag you with all of those things, right? So adding programs to your department, that is capacity building. And just how do you do that? And I will tell you, just being the butt in the seat already starts your capacity for your tribe, because now somebody they can talk to. They know who they can call, and you might not have the answer, and that is okay. But you are that butt in the seat, and so somebody can call and speak with you. So start with the general assistance grant. I can't turn there we go. Sorry if I'm blocking your view, just let me know. Okay. It's meant to help build capacity. That's what it is for. You know, your ordinances, your solid waste plans, emergency plans, education material. And I know a lot of you guys probably already have this, but if you're coming into a program that hasn't had somebody for a while, you might have a hard time finding that stuff. And so just remember that that's what this grant can be used for. And then but I'll tell you, do you know what the tribe wants? So when I first went to work at Kashia a long time ago, I walked my first tribal council meeting, they were going over their strategic plan. First one they'd ever done, yay for them. And I was like, where's environmental? They totally left out environmental in their strategic plan, but they have an environmental department. So I was like, okay, that's really interesting. And you know that your community and your tribal council doesn't always agree. I mean, does anybody here have it where your community totally agrees with your tribal council and says, you guys are doing an awesome job? Yeah. But you do need to talk with your council, and you do need to try and get information from your community. And I always tell people, you know, tell me what it is you want. I'll take a notebook with me. I'll write it down, and I do my best to give them an answer. And sometimes it means I'm just quoting an ordinance, and I'm like, I'm sorry, that's what it is. That's what my job is. But oddly enough, if I have somebody who's really upset with me because I have to enforce a rule, if I quote that and say, you can go to tribal council, they're usually still okay with me. Usually, not always. And it can be informal. You can set up a needs assessment under general assistance. Don't ever call it a SURVY because that's actually a 4-letter word. And then there'll be questions about OMB and all this stuff. But set up an assessment, and it can be really simple. Try to not be too invasive, but just what do you want to see? It might be animal control because all the dogs are tearing out my trash, but at least you know what your community is looking for. And then I mentioned, does your tribe have a strategic plan? If not, make sure that environmental is added into it. And I put a 4-letter acronym in here, ETEP. Not everybody likes that term, but I actually do like it. It helps me think strategically in my department. So as difficult as it is, once you have one and you're updating it, it's not so bad, honestly. So yeah, I mean, it can really help you strategize. And if you already have an environmental assessment for your department, you can just switch it over to an ETEP. Yeah. And if you guys want to ask questions while I'm going through the slides, please feel free to. Yeah. Well, E means EPA and T is just tribal. TEP is Tribal Environmental Plan. ETEP is EPA Tribal Environmental Plan. Yes. Oh, that's right. I forgot because we're live, right? Yeah, okay. Apologies, Zoom, people on Zoom. And if you guys on Zoom have questions, let me know. So I don't want to leave them out if they have, or if they go in the chat or anything. Oh. So sometimes it's like this, and I don't know if this will play. Oh, okay, yes, hopefully it will. So I don't know if you've ever seen this video, Hi Math, my mom, Pa Kettle. All right. So I saw this video and I was like, be prepared. Some conversations may go like this and you want to tear your hair out. Will it play? No, can you play it on yours?
No, that's not it.
Oh, darn it. Okay. It would have been totally fantastic. It's like a 3-minute video, but I'll give you a preface and then you can, it's on YouTube. You can easily find it. But it's about math, and it's about how you do math.
All right, that's the funniest thing. Well, I'll read it to you. It starts out, witness it, just like it should start. This agreement entered into this 20th day of July, year of 1950, between Pa Kettle, party of the first part, Ma Kettle, party of the second part, and Billy Reed, Geoduck, and Crowbar, parties of the third part, fourth part, and fifth part. The aforesaid parties of the first part and second part agrees to part with part of their part to the parties of the third.
Okay.
Well, now, ain't that the funniest thing?
Well, I'll read it to you. It starts out, witness it, just like it should start. This agreement entered into this 20th day of July, year of 1950, between Pa Kettle, party of the first part, Ma Kettle, party of the second part, and Billy Reed, Geoduck, and Crowbar, parties of the third part, fourth part, and fifth part. The aforesaid parties of the first part and second part agrees to part with part of their part to the parties of the third part, fourth part, and fifth part. It is also agreed that all parties are to do their part to keep the agreement made between the parties of the first part, second part, third part, fourth part, and fifth part. That's only the agreement in part.
You got enough parts there to make an automobile. Have some left over.
Now, should the first party and second party become a party to anything not agreeable to the third party, fourth party, and fifth party, the first party and second party shall be liable to the third party, the fourth party, and the fifth party.
Hold on, Billy. That's enough. I've had too many parties already.
Of course, that's just a rough draft.
When you get it smoothed out, we won't understand it any better.
Now, about the percentage. I figure 75% to you, Pa and Ma, and 25% divided between the five of us. Geoduck, Crowbar, myself, Tom, and the baby. That makes 5% for each one of us.
Billy, you're cheating yourself. If there's 25% divided among the five of you, that's 14% apiece.
Oh, no, listen, Pa. I wouldn't cheat you. You know I wouldn't. Now, look here. I'll show you. Let me rub this out here. And now, 25 divided by 5 is 5. You see, 5 won't go into 2, will it? No. But 5 goes into 25 5 times, you see?
No, you're wrong, Billy. Now, I'm pretty good mathematician. Now, 5 into 25, 5 won't go into 2.
No.
But 5 goes into 5 once. Now, we didn't use the 2 before, so we bring it down here. Now, 5 into 20 goes 4 times. There you are. 5 into 25, 14.
No, look, Pa. Now, let me prove it to you now by multiplication. 5 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25.
Really, I'm surprised you're learning.
Huh?
I'm surprised that you're learning. Now I'll show you. 5 times 14 is 25. 5 times 4 is 20. 5 times 1 is 5. 25. That's it.
No, look, Ma. See, look, you're wrong there because I'll prove it to you. We'll put down 5 14s here. 14. There. Now I'll prove to you by addition that 5 14s is not 25. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20.
21, 22, 23, 24, 25. There you are. Better brush up, Billy. I don't want to see you boys cheated.
So you may have already had conversations like that, okay? Just so you know.
I was doing my budget like that last night.
Were you? See, it's just to illustrate that you can be talking with somebody and trying to keep it as simple as you think it is, and still there will be just a misunderstanding, or the concept, how they see it will be different. And don't be discouraged. Don't lose hope. You just wait. Can you put me back on the? Can you?
Yes, I can fix that.
But I that just really like honed in. When you watch Mom Pa Kettle in the beginning and he's talking about it, sometimes when you're talking about environmental in your department, you have to go to tribal council or to general council, and they're watching you. All of a sudden, you see them kind of glaze over. It's like, whoa. If it's not housing, if it's not 638 monies or about ICWA or something that's the fire on the desk, they just kind of clue out. So but to me that just. Do they? Okay, so it probably sounds like that paper he was reading, right? Yeah, apart and apart and apart. Yeah. Okay, so what's next? So consider what you have now. Are they EPA grants? Are they BIA grants? Nonprofit foundation funding? And so we all know that we were told that under general assistance, you have a 5% cap on what you can write for grants. So, and this is where EPA needs to close their ears. So I said, get creative and include your elders.
collaborate with others on projects that might be within the tribe or outside entity, and assign sections for them to write. So I know I have a cap, and what I try to do with other departments or other staff that aren't under general assistance, if I think it applies to their program, I ask them, can you write this section? And it reduces my time in writing that grant. Or if I have an outside collaborator and they start the framework and I just fill in certain parts, that reduces my time that I'm having to utilize that under my gap, especially if I know it's a capacity building. And make connections with your RCDs, Resource Conservation Districts. Yesterday, I could not think of what that acronym meant, but I got it today. They are grant funded and they're always looking for ways to collaborate, and they'll probably write that grant for you, and then you just need to fill in. And be patient. And that's the hardest thing. When you don't want to be patient and somebody tells you be patient, sometimes it makes you like, I don't want to be patient. But when you work in communities, people are dynamic. They flex, they bend, the relationships, everything, and sometimes they're just not ready. As long as you can be patient, all of a sudden things might start coming together and you're like, oh my gosh, and then you're racing to keep up. And so how did Kashia grow? If this is how we did. So in the beginning, we had a public water systems grants in 1970 that helped us with our water system. Wastewater system, 1984. General assistance grant, as I said, we started 98, 99. Drinking water set aside in 2016. PPG grants, we had one, 206 in 2008, and then again 2017 to present. And then there were other grants from other places. But since we're here with the EPA conference, like these were some of the EPA grants that we had. And in some cases, they were run by tribal staff, not necessarily environmental staff. So obviously the 70 and 84, we didn't have a program then. So probably the tribal administrator wrote it. But it was a starting point. And then once we had somebody in the general assistance grant in the environmental, that's where a lot of things started to take off. And so in 2009 is when I started working at Kashia. And I was like, what is this envelope? And the terrible administrator says, here's this envelope. It came from BIA and Caltrans. I was like, okay, what's in it? Consultant strip maps. I was like, what is that? So technically in 2009 is when our roads division started at Kashia, because somebody handed me an envelope and said, can you like figure this out? And that will happen in your departments, especially if you're coming into a new department. However, that still happens to me now. And I've been at Kashia for a while. So they're like, can you just figure this out? I'm like, yeah, sure. So yeah, it was like stuff that was a hidden gem. So if you're just getting into a department and you don't know what's there, check all envelopes, check everything. You don't know what's been put somewhere just to try and keep it together. And then always check to see how you can use the funding. Take the time to research it a little bit. Some of your BIA funds are very flexible. So if you can't write your grant under your gap because we have the 5% cutoff, you can use BIA funds if you have it. So since then, all right. Now some of these things you're like, well, I don't know, we can't do that. And I'll admit, if your tribe's moving forward and is looking forward to acquiring land or open to you collaborating with outside partners, then things might happen more quickly. But since 2015, the tribe acquired land adjacent to the rancheria, which was initially at that time at 41.85 acres, not 75. And then in 2015, the tribe acquired the Kashia Coastal Reserve. And then in 2016, we had a Coastal Reserve event. My staff worked 18-hour days. It was very long, but it was awesome. And then we had some cleanup issues that we had to do 2014 and 19 on the reservation. And so we used Cal Recycle. And if you're in California, that's a really good grant to use. And that was one grant that I actually put in my gap that I was going to write for that grant, because solid waste is one of the things you can do as implementation under general assistance program. Yeah.
I have a question on that Cal Recycle grant.
Mine was for the dumps, open dumps. So if you do Cal Recycle, there's some things that they're really easy on, but they're documenting. Keep every receipt. You're gonna, oh my gosh, keep every receipt, make a photocopy of it. At the end of every month, make sure you go through your fiscal ledgers, like contact your fiscal, get the copies of the ledgers, do it, just get it done beforehand. If you wait when you're trying to file for reimbursement, you'd be like, I'm crazy, I'm not doing this grant ever again. But I've done twice.
Is that for all types of waste, like hazardous waste as well?
We didn't have a lot of well, that's not true. So when we were doing the cleanup, we did find some hazardous materials. And so that is to be expected, but you do need to outline it initially. So it's always assumed that every tribe, for the most part, was in the beginning agricultural land, because that's usually how it started out. So you automatically qualify in California. And then you do put down, you do your due diligence, like maybe pictures of your area, some samples, like examples of what you have to clean up and what you think is there. So you do in the beginning you say, I think this is what we have, and this is estimated the size of it. If you think that it's hazardous materials, you are going to need to put that in there. I didn't have any, so luckily I did, except for batteries, and that was an easy enough thing to get rid of. But if you have something more than that, definitely work with Cal Recycle, because they do have other funding that might help you with that. And that, I mean, I don't work for Cal Recycle, and that's not like, but it, when you try to do cleanups under EPA, under GAP, you have to it has to go back to headquarters. They have to approve it, even if it's car removal. So yeah, I was like, yeah, no, I don't want to deal with that. Yes, no, EPA can't ask any questions. I'm just kidding.
How much does Cal Recycle give?
Yeah, just
per year. About how many grants do they award?
Well, I'm not a Cal Recycle representative, so I could only tell you that in 1 year, we actually, for 2 of our locations, we got between 45 and 50,000 for each location.
Right.
So when I've looked at their website, there's usually like 8 or 9 grants that they award.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really not a huge program, but they have, they do have, they do announce it, and every year they have that.
They do, and they actually have more than one cycle that you can apply to. There's like 3 cycles. And I do typically send them out in California, but it is a really good grant to help with cleaning up some solid waste on the property. 2016, we added new lands to Stewart's Point Rancheria. Yes, question? Oh.
Did you hire a contractor to do the cleanup, or did you guys do it yourself?
We did it ourselves. We hired tribal members. So sometimes that's what happens in your environmental department. When you're able to get things like this, like I put out a thing, I need workers. And especially if it's on the reservation, even you have a lot of people that don't work full time. It's not really hard. And as long as you can find a good supervisor, that's not always easy. Our last one was not as ideal as our first time we cleaned up, but we did it. That helps. And it brings buy-in. So what's helped with us in environmental is because they know that we have grants that come through that I need workers, and definitely not always EPA grants. It's a lot of times BIA, Cal Recycle, a lot of them BIA, but some other non-governmental grants that we've gotten, then I hire workers that are from the reservation. I will hire off reservation if I can't get anybody, but usually I get enough. And sometimes these projects are like 8 months. And so for 8 months, they have a paycheck, and then they can go file for unemployment. So it gets buy-in. So when something happens, or they'll ask me like, hey, or they'll tell me, somebody's dumping over there, like all of a sudden everybody, they rat each other out, but.
Yes, for the Cal Recycle on your slide, it says clean up old dumps. Is that just any dump, or is that open dump?
It was any dump. So for us, example is our first cleanup was from tribal dumps that happened back in the 50s before the tribe actually had trash collection. And I only found this out, I was walking back behind the school next to the reservation, and I was like, wow, this feels kind of weird. And you dig down, and it was like 6 feet of trash that had been dumped in a ravine. From the school, from people there. There were lots of things, and there were several of those locations around. And so we documented them the best we could, as well as scatter sites. And then the second time we did it was actually an old logging camp, but it was on tribal land, and nobody was going to come and say, that was our stuff. It was so long ago. So the only thing we couldn't remove with Cal Recycle funds was anything that showed it was like a logging equipment. And then the tribe actually put in to get rid of some of that. So you just have to show, and that one was a bottle dump. If you've never seen a bottle dump from like the 40s, it's crazy. And it's pretty cool, the stuff you find, but it was pretty massive. Question?
I was just gonna make a comment on solid waste too, since I know that's always an issue. BIA is really good. Every year I get about $30,000 to $40,000 from BIA for cleanups on the reservation. I just contact Phil's kiddo from the BIA, and then the other thing I would say is contact Indian Health Service, because SDS, they have to also do solid waste through SDS. Typically, they don't because they're always underfunded. But with the Infrastructure and Inflation Reduction Act, I was told that SDS, everything's getting funded now. They have so much money that everything's getting funded. So we're getting a new transfer station funded, amongst other things right now.
That's good to add in
SDS.
there because I didn't have that when I was putting this together. That information I didn't have yet.
Yeah.
And so when we've tried to do SDS with Indian Health Service, I just wanted to pull my hair out, and
Yeah, I mean,
it was
we
a nightmare.
we put all of our solid waste stuff on SDS, knowing that it probably wasn't getting funded because obviously water and wastewater always takes precedent. But it's been sitting there, and now everything's getting funded on SDS.
That's a good idea. No, that's, oh, I don't need that. I got this one. Sorry.
So I mean, it costs nothing to leave it on there.
No, but that's an excellent idea. If you get the sanitary deficiency surveys, fill them out. They're due every May, so keep an eye out for it. If you have not seen it, ask your IHS representative when it's coming, or ask them to send it to you, and then fill it out. Because she's right, with that money coming in now, they're throwing money at the tribe, so utilize it. I know, right? Sometimes they're like, are you hearing me? Well, that's what was happening to me, but now with all this money, the money's sitting there. This is the time to do it. Do it. See, listen to me. You're good at that, Dallas. I know you can do it. Okay, in 2016, we had our first marine ecology program with Forest Ross Conservancy, and we did this under General Assistance Program, and it was an education with our kids. As we know, under GAP, can't keep repeating the same environmental outreach and stuff that you do. And then in 2021, we received an exchange grant that we wrote under Clean Water Act. Oh, I've got the clicker. Oh, back there. Question. I'm short. You guys like raise your hands. Like, yeah, Mia's, she's good.
No, she was.
Yeah, feel free to ask questions. This is not, like I said, this was like the hardest presentation for me to put together.
So going back to the Cal Recycle grant, does it have, will it cover trust or fee land instead of just trust? Because I know.
It'll cover both. It should cover both. It's not like EPA, which says you have to be on federal land. Cal Recycle is a state grant. Now, I will add into this. In some of our state grants, they are asking you to waive sovereign immunity. And what Kashia does is we do a limited waiver. And we have it approved through our general counsel. And a limited waiver means that we access it to what our insurance is, because you have insurance that covers stuff. Anything that's not, so it doesn't harm the tribe. So just, and if you have further questions, I can try and find out from our attorney exactly how she does that. But we do a limited waiver of sovereign immunity, because we will never waive all of our sovereign right. Yes, it's usually just for the one project. And every tribe carries insurance. So you usually do what your limits of your insurance will cover. Okay, and then since then, so we've done so much stuff. We're little, but we're growing. So in 2018, we actually started our spotted owl surveys on the Kashia Coastal Reserve. Anybody who wants to come and be up until 3 o'clock in the morning next year, you must let me know. You can come and do spotted owl surveys with us. And so the tribe actually had been doing economic development. The tribe is not a casino tribe, so it doesn't have monies from that. And so they actually agreed to put some money into this, because when we purchased the Kashia Coastal Reserve, it was done, some of the tribal membership put money in from the revenue sharing, but we had support from Sonoma County. We had support from the some foundations like Trust for Public Lands. So we were able to purchase this, and then there was an active timber harvest plan already on it, and we didn't want to lose that, because it cost that family, when they did it, $47,000. We didn't want to lose that. I mean, that was a boon for us. So we put a little money, we made a budget and said, this is what we think we might need. And then 2019, we started the spotted owl surveys on the Rancheria, because with the land we acquired, it doubled the Rancheria size 3,000% actually. And if we wanted to look at doing harvest to put the forest back into health there, we needed to make sure that we had our surveys done for spotted owls, because that's what would limit us. And then in 2018, we had a Christensen Fund representative come up to the KCR. I took her off-roading in our side-by-side, and she came up in this little white dress and sandals. And I looked at her, I said, I did tell you we were going to be out in the field, right? She has saved that dress just because of memories, but we got funded. But that meeting with her, I covered under general assistance. That was a collaboration. When you do collaboration, you can cover it under your general assistance. So even if you're a really small tribe, very small land base or no land base, collaborate. That is a key word, collaborate, because you don't know where that can take you. And like I said in the beginning, just being the butt in the seat already starts your capacity building. And this is from my perspective. Somebody, APA might have a different perspective, but I've got the mic and this is my presentation. I've been doing this a long time. I used to have darker hair, was a little thinner. In 2019 and 2020, we began our collaboration with the Greater Fairlawns on the marine protected areas and kelp surveys. That conversation, I covered it under GAP. Do you guys get you see my theme here? When you collaborate, those meetings, doesn't mean you're going to continue to do that work under that, because that might lead to say, hey, we have a grant we're applying for and we'd like to include you. They might say, maybe they say, we want to include Duck Valley, or we want to include Viejas or whoever, but you don't know until you start the conversation. And anytime you guys want to come and do flyovers on kelp surveys, you just let me know. I need divers. Anybody scuba diving? All right. And then in 2020, the Resource Legacy Fund gave us money to collaborate on the KCR. They're like, hey, you guys are doing a great job. I inherited this grant from administration, and this can happen. They're like, hey, Nina, you get to do this grant now. And I was like, oh, okay, what is it? Can I have all the paperwork? Did not get all the paperwork. I had to contact Resource Legacy Fund to get some of it. And I felt really embarrassed. But they're like, no, it happens. It's okay. So don't be afraid to ask if you have to. And then in 2020, tribal, if you guys, I don't know if any of you attended, but Rosa from Tahoe did a present, or is that today? Maybe that's at 11 today. But she is presenting on the Tribal Marine Stewards Program or Network. And that group met, and that was, when I went to the meeting, I covered it under GAP, just simply because it was a collaboration. But we basically wrote a proposal there at that meeting with OPC, Ocean Protection Council, and California U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And it was like time to throw down the tribal science and knowledge. And we got funded. The group got funded $1 million. I didn't have to write it. All I did was have to be in a room, and we had to write down what our priorities were, where we wanted to go, and that got all coalesced into a proposal that was funded. So that's what I said, be creative. Use your partners if you can. I know I have so much. I'm sorry. If it's too much, I'll stop. I'm pretty proud of our stuff. So in 2021, wrote a grant to BIA Youth Grant, and we got funded for our bear monitoring project. And we did that in collaboration with the North Bay Bear Collaborative. So they actually wrote the grant, and then we reviewed it. It was the only way that I could do it. I'd already had other grants. I'd already hit my 5%. And then we also got another one from Cal EPA. And then we began our mussel sampling on the Coastal Reserve with OPC money, because we got funded that, and Ocean Protection Council and KCR's Kashia Coastal Reserve. So in 2021, Packard says, hey, great work. We want to give you some money. You see where this is going? You start doing your work, showing what you can do. Sometimes you're talking to people and your butt in the seat can take you places, but you have to be patient. I've been working at Kashia for 13 years. This has all started to happen in the last 5. So be patient. And then 2022, we began our 3D intertidal modeling. Again, OPC money and some with Packard. If you guys want to get out, low tides, really early, dark with early mornings, come see me. It's a lot of fun. And then we did in 2022 our first Kashia ecology program. So we had been doing stuff with Fort Ross, and now Kashia said, you know what, we have this the Kashia Coastal Reserve. We're going to do our ecology program for our Kashia youth. And culture participated in it. We used some GAP funding because we included climate change. We used some of our OPC money because that was community engagement. So we had several pots of money that we could utilize this for. We did it for 3 days, and the kids are like, we'd rather do this than go to Potter Valley. So anybody in California who goes to Potter Valley camp out, that's what our kids told us. I know, right? Sorry. Shh. But it was beautiful, and culture department came out with us, and it was like, sometimes when you come back from youth campouts, you're stressed, you need a vacation, and it wasn't like that with this. It was nice to be able to take our youth and tell them that your ancestors were here and your ancestors doing this, and this is what we're doing here. So starting them young. And then in 2022, we, under the Tribal Marine Stewards Network, we found out that, yeah, we're getting another 3.6 million. Whew. We're happy about that too. So, and it just continues to fill the holes of what, and that's to continue to fill those holes of Western science. Oh, did I pass something? Oh, I did. Oh, so and then I threw in some pictures. So the two little girls, those are mine. They came out and helped do mussel sampling. We use a rope to belay down a small cliff to get to it. It's pretty cool. So on the West Coast, if you've heard, there's an issue with domoic acid and other paralytics, and we get red tides. And so we are testing the mussels here, and we're also doing phytoplankton testing so that we can see if we start to see a rise in the phytoplankton we don't want. And it doesn't happen everywhere. So sometimes you'll hear that there is red tide, no shellfish collected along the coast from maybe, let's say, Bodega all the way up to the California border, the California-Oregon border. But within there, there's pockets where that's not the case. And so where we're testing, people go down and they collect mussels at the coastal reserve, and we're testing those areas so they know when they're safe. If we start to see pseudonychia is the phytoplankton that we don't want, and if we start to see a rise in that, then we'll start sampling more than once a month for mussels. So I don't know, any other questions?
Are you conducting timber harvest plans?
Yes.
And did you have an RPF on staff or?
No, I actually contracted with that one. Yeah, so we don't have that. That is our goal to build towards that. So oh shoot, no, okay. All right, that's not the pointer. Don't touch that one. All right, so this here, that's the Kashia Coastal Reserve, and that's just the coast. It's a pretty picture taken from a drone. So when we needed to meet our agreements with Sonoma County, so that is a fee property, we had to have a forest management plan. And we contracted with somebody local who the tribe actually works with a lot and has a very good reputation with. But that plan had a different forester on it. So we had to ask him to release it and give it to this other forester. So then we utilized him to do our forest management plan and then help us set up the harvest with it and finding see my brain, I haven't been around for a while, so the words just like totally rattle around and go out the other ear. The forester to do the job and the LTO, or well, they're not limited, but and so they went through and marked trees, but our staff went out with them when they were in the forest to know what trees they were marking. So we did a lot of work with them in that, but we don't have an RPF on staff at this point. That will be coming. And so if you ever want me to do this again, that might be the next thing I add on there that we've increased that.
So in that example with the shadowing for the tree marking, were you able to offer, a wage for tribal members to be out there with?
I paid them.
And
yeah.
What was that funded through?
So a little back when we started our owl surveys, that was part of that funding that I gave to the council that we needed to do. And so I had to work out a budget for all that, and that did include having staff out there with the forester. And you have to limit it. Like I couldn't say I want to have 12 staff out there. I always limit it to like about 4. Yeah. Yes.
So you have a lot of experience at Kashia now over the years. And
13 years, baby, still racking up the years.
You've collaborated a lot, built a lot of capacity. So what's a typical GAP work plan look like these days for you now?
Why did I know somebody was asking me that question? Okay. So when you do plans, let's say your ETAP. So every 3 years, 2 to 3 years, you should be updating your ETAP. And then, so that's on there. Solid waste plan. Do you have one? Does it need to be updated? If it's more than 2 years old, update it. Education. So education gets a little tricky because we like to do repeated things, but that's where it gets a little creative. Ask somebody else. So example, this bottom photo is with Sonoma County Youth Yes Coast Outside. And that's a youth group that Regional Parks does with kids in the area. So we start looking at where can we collaborate and do youth programs that will enhance what Kashia does, but also put us back out there in the county. Because some of these programs, as we know, if you have some people who live off on res and then some who live off, Sometimes you're missing those kids that live off reservation. This is one way that you capture them because they may be participating in these programs in the county through their schools. That's our bear project next to it, where she's checking a camera. No bears yet, sadly enough, but mountain lion, bobcat, spotted skunk. But the bear is over on the reservation land, which is not where we have our cameras. You'll figure that. Let's see, what else do I have in my gap? Always, what you do with your grants, talking with your project officer, that stuff is in there. And don't be afraid. So one thing I find is that sometimes project officers are like, well, you need to put this in, you put this in there. Do what you're able to do and stick with it, because you want to be able to complete what you've got going on in your plan and in your program. When you start growing, doing GAP gets hard to do. So you may have to bring on somebody to help you do GAP, which is what I am in the process of looking for now. Oh yeah, oh no. Because you have all these other things going on. And I'm a biologist by trade, wildlife biologist. So for me, the fun stuff is outside. Policy, whatever, like, oh, please, that gives me a headache. But you do need them. And I had a couple of questions. There was one. Baseline, you can also do baseline assessments of your tribal lands under general assistance. So.
It's find new capacities anyway.
Well, and your community changes. If you add land onto your community, you might want to, do you have another component? It's something you might have to revamp plans. That can go back into your GAP, because now you may have to take your solid waste plan and add the other lands to it. Even if it's assessments, even if it's fee land, because the tribe is still responsible for what happens on those lands. So just think broad, think creative, be patient. I know I've said that a few times, but really be patient. Question.
Do you foresee the Tribal Marine Stewards Network expanding at all?
Yes.
Like,
not tomorrow, not next week.
Yeah.
But we're new. We're just new. We've been doing this for 2 years. We just added a 5th tribe.
That's really awesome. Like, could you see it expanding between other coastal tribes too? Okay.
You need to go see Rosa at Talawa. She's going to talk about this.
Okay.
So
Sweet.
We're excited, and it's new, but yeah, it's so much fun. Yeah. Any other questions? Come on, ask me a hard question. One I can't answer that I might have to punt to EPA. Go ahead, John. You pass it back up.
Your limit is expired.
All right. Can you describe a time when you wrote into your GAP plan, capacity building thing, that you had a disagreement with EPA and how that was resolved? Or maybe they didn't agree with what you wanted to do, and what was the compromise or workaround?
I reworded it.
How?
That's usually, so we've had a lot of conversations about cultural, and lately that has, EPA has been, so I will be honest, when I started, EPA is like, don't even mention cultural to me, blah, 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 this and that. And I will always say, you never want a federal government to tell you what cultural should be. And so always make sure that you are defining that for yourself in your plans. I'm careful with how I put that in my GAP plans, because we do have an active cultural department, but I will tie things in, like things that are integral to the tribe, culturally integral. Like I may not do anything cultural about it, but we all know that your natural resource is already a cultural resource. So they're tied together. So I just reword it. I've had a lot of back and forth. And it's like, I just refuse to do that. I'm not going to do it. You're not going to fund me because I'm not going to change that word. Well, give me another change. I will tell you, the person who is so good at wordsmithing, Tim Wilhite, and that man's going to be retiring at some point. If you ever have an opportunity and you want to ask me, hey, can you help me with some language? Mr. Wilhite is your man. The other person who's really good that I have right now is Miko. Miko's really good at helping finding the language that you need. And ask your PO. And I will tell you, if your PO does not want to work with you and is being really stubborn, then start dialing the numbers. Or go to Ruben or go to Laura. Because you do. Yeah. So, I mean, just don't be afraid to. This is not a department and this is not a program that you get to be shy in. If you're shy and not sure how to deal with people, you got to get over it. You really got to make that phone call. The first one might be hard, but after that, it's going to get easier. Because even now, still today, especially if I know how a conversation is going to go, I'm like, I don't want to make that phone call.
Yeah, and then the other thing too is like, no shouldn't be the answer.
You got it. No shit. She's been around a long time. She's going to be retiring at some point too. So, utilize her brain.
No should never be the answer. If someone says no, go find.
And if you don't ask, the answer is always no.
It needs to change maybe a little bit by wordsmithing it or whatever, but there's always a way.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody says no, you need to, like she said, call somebody else.
And or call, if you know there's another tribe that's working on a similar project. I've had people call me say, hey, how would I want to start a pesticide program. So if you didn't know, like I'm the vice chair of the Tribal Pesticide Program Council, and I'm the tribal lead for the pesticide work group. And so sometimes they're like, how do I start this in my gap? And I offer some language, like this is how you could start it. If you know there's a tribe near you, it doesn't even have to be near you. If you're in California and that tribe's in Arizona or Nevada, call them. I'll give you Annette's number. She's done a lot of stuff. She's been around a while. So is Dallas. Just kidding. I'll point them out. John, too. Samuel, he's been around a while. He knows how the ropes work. But just don't be afraid to call him and ask him, how did you do it? What language did you use? Because that can be helpful, too. Your tribes can be your biggest advocate, your partner, your family down the road.
Well, it sounds like if y'all need help with grant writing, it sounds like Nina's the one that you're going to call with that. Because you've got a pretty lengthy list going on there. It's pretty impressive because that's one thing that we find amongst the tribes is that it's a thin component. There's a lot of ambition there, but then the work is not put into it because it is time consuming. I don't think enough time is allotted for that component in general. There's the repeat ones of gap and everything, but then if you want to go into a new area, it's very time consuming. But you probably take that list and attach it to some of your applications, right? Because then they want to know the history of your awards and stuff. So it's always good to have that list too.
And if your tribe is willing, or if you are able to do it maybe under a BIA contract, if you can hire a grant writer, that helps a lot, because if your grant writer will be covered under a lot of other programs, and they can be a contract. They're a contract line in your gap. They don't have, so that person can be a contract, a portion of it. The rest of the tribe pays other parts of that contract. And then all I have to do is when they're writing the grant for me, I just have to review it. And reviewing it may be a total of 8 hours total of my time. That's a big difference in having to try and lay out the whole grant and write it. So, and grant writers, good grant writers are not inexpensive. They are not cheap. But we have a gentleman that works with us, and his success rate is pretty darn high, which is a little scary because what I did not put on here is the tribe is starting its abalone farm, and I am on that team. I have reviewed a lot of grants right now that we're giving to NOAA. And that would be another component in our department. So anybody looking to move and need a gap coordinator, you want to come out of the coast? No, just kidding. But you have. You said all that. I know. But I mean, he's really successful, and he gets it. So if you're able to find that person, and it might take a couple, but definitely utilize it if you have that ability. Also is look at who the ability is in your departments. I have Abby's come a couple of times to the conferences, and she's in some of those pictures. She's really quiet. She doesn't say a whole lot, but dang, that woman, she watches, she listens, and when she writes, it's beauty. Like I write okay. She's a beautiful writer. And I utilize her, but I try to be easy and nice on her because I want her to stay a really long time. Any other questions? Yeah, really, thank you for coming. I hope it was useful. Feel free to email me or give me a call. If you email me and I don't respond, call me. I already have a few hundred emails that have hit my mailbox this week. So, don't be afraid to give me a holler. My number's there. And thank you.
Standing here, we had like a cavern. We had a rock concert in my freaking room yesterday, and then this room was like a closet. Church.